Up next, please help me welcome, and we're going to keep this moving here because soon our keynote speaker will be here, or be up here, and some speakers after them, and we have a song coming up shortly. But for now, please help me welcome somebody who's known across Connecticut as a gun kind of guy, Craig Fishbein, attorney at law.
I want to start today by saying thank you. Thank you to the Connecticut Citizens Defense League, and thank you to all of you for coming here today. Thank you are two words that, when joined together, show someone else that you appreciate something that they've done. I have a mission for all of you. Over the next month, find out who your state representatives are. Find out who your state senators are. Find out how they voted on this gun bill. And if they voted against it, call them and say thank you. On the other hand, if you find out that these individuals voted in favor of this, you call them and you tell them no thank you to them staying in Hartford. Sometimes a two-word phrase like thank you, although small, can be quite moving and poignant. Over the last few weeks, I've been asked by many people how I feel about these new gun laws. My response, a two-word phrase, pissed off. Over the past couple of years, I've stood up here a few times, a bunch of times, and I've spoken to the crowds about what the legislature is going to do to restrict your gun ownership. In 2010, I warned the crowd of about 300 people that there were high-ranking politicians, cloaked as conservative Republicans, intent on disarming you and not to trust them. In 2012, I warned the crowd of about 500 that there were wolves at their door looking to take their guns away and to remain vigilant and not to go to sleep at all. On January 19, 2013, I stood up here and told the crowd of about 4,000 that the wolves were in their bedroom, hiding on both sides of the aisle, intent on banning guns, intent on blaming you for the acts of a crazy man, lured by the fantasy of video games. I also told that crowd that the legislature, they weren't going to listen. They're going to go through the motions, and they're going to pass more ineffective, feel-good laws, because they just had to do something, anything, no matter how ridiculous, no matter how onerous, no matter how ineffective in actually prohibiting crime. And I stand up here today and I tell you, I was right. Over the next year or so, a few of these people that voted to take away your rights, to treat you all like criminals, people who have no idea the implications of the bill that they voted for, nor in some cases what it actually says. They will ask you for their support for office. Some will ask you for money. Some will ask you to support them for governor. I ask of you, when you get that call, when you get that request, that you respond with a two-word phrase. And while this is a family event, I will tell you that that two-word phrase should merely be, no way. Since December, the process that we have watched unfold here, the disconnect, the lack of logical reasoning by our state government, actually reminds me of a story. In a state far, far away from here, on the left coast as they call it, there happened to be an incident of graffiti. And while there are already state laws against graffiti, the legislature was quite upset because the artist used bright orange spray paint and wrote lewd comments on a roadside billboard about the governor, who was much revered by the members of the legislature, a majority of which shared his same party affiliation. Immediately, the legislature convened, and by way of emergency certification, with no comment from the public, it banned the sale and/or possession of cans of bright orange spray paint. The very next day, more graffiti appeared. This time on a wall near the state capitol in fluorescent yellow paint and poking fun at the governor's latest girlfriend, who it was rumored in Capitol Hill circles of being unfaithful to the governor. With light speed, the legislature reconvened, and once again, using the power of emergency certification, they banned the sale and or possession of fluorescent yellow spray paint. On the following day, another incident of graffiti. This time the perpetrator used black spray paint, and the canvas was the wide sidewalk in front of the governor's mansion. The text said in very colorful language that the governor was uncaring, and that his girlfriend was just a media hound who worked in a soup kitchen on holidays merely to advance the governor's political aspirations. The legislature, frustrated that its prior actions had done nothing to prevent the already illegal activity of graffiti, once again reconvened and banned the sale and or possession of cans of black spray paint. Later that same day, as the sun began to set, 2 state troopers pulled over a car on a dark rural roadway. Upon approaching the car, the officers smelled the distinct odor of used spray paint and agreed that it appeared to be emanating from the vehicle's trunk. They asked the driver to exit the vehicle and if they could have a look in the trunk. The governor's son, knowing that he had been had, slid out of the driver's seat and opened the trunk. Inside, the officers found one case each of bright orange, fluorescent yellow, and black spray paint. Later that evening, the legislature reconvened and, recognizing its lack of logical reasoning, repealed all of its recent spray paint bans. Fortunately, in that state far, far away, the legislature finally realized that they were not using logical reasoning to address the problem, and that their knee-jerk reactions did nothing to prevent the harm. Unfortunately, such sanity has not made it here to Connecticut. I don't think that any member of the legislature actually believes that had these new gun restrictions been in place in December, that they would have prevented the Newtown tragedy. Nonetheless, they passed the new laws with no care for the law-abiding and total disconnect from any form of logical reasoning. Logical reasoning. Another 2-word phrase that clearly does not describe Connecticut's legislature. Over the next few years, after they make you register and catalog all of your firearms, the legislature will take its next step. They will order their minions to go from house to house to confiscate your guns. They will order this with no care for your property interests. They will order this with no care for your safety. They will order this while they hide behind their taxpayer-funded fences and armed security forces. They will order this in a desperate attempt to continue to capitalize on the Newtown tragedy. Your response?
No way!
Well, I have another 2-word phrase. Your response is another 2-word phrase, and that 2-word phrase is Molan Labe. Which, for those of you who do not know Greek, stands for a 4-word phrase, which means come and take them. Thank you, and God bless Connecticut, because she surely needs it.
Thank you, Attorney Fishbein.